Hello and welcome to UK Versus. Today we're going to be once again going a little bit off the beaten track. We're not covering cards or combos again. What we're going to be talking about is you as a new or intermediate player knowing what to do next. So you've done your demo, you've bought your Clash deck or your Challengers deck, you're sitting down for your first game that's not scripted. What do? First of all, as a brand new player, do not put pressure on yourself. You do not need to win. You do not need to be the most competitive person in the room. You do not need to dominate every event you go to. Just have fun. This is a game in the end. Everyone should be having fun. Fun should be your top priority. And you should be able to walk away from every event saying that it was a fun event. This community is one of the best communities out there. If your local game store is anything like the people I play with, you're going to be having a great time at every event you go to. What we're going to be looking at here is strategies and advice to take you from demo to game sense. First, after your demo, find a character you like or pick up a challenger deck, a clash deck, and jam some games if you like those characters. But the key should be finding a play style, a character, or a symbol that matches what you want to play, what you think would be fun. When you're starting out the game, everything should be fun. You will learn so much from losses than wins, and you'll gain so much more knowledge about the game, playing what you find fun, than trying to force something that you think is good. When I started playing this game, I played arguably one of the worst characters in the game, and I did end up winning some games. I did end up losing a lot, but I attribute that first 2 months of me just playing this bad character to how well I did for the rest of the year. I learned so much through those losses that when I then moved on to other characters, I had a lot more fun. If you're brand new to card games, this is more for you. If you've come from other card games such as Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, Pokemon, you will already have some transferable skills and will know the basics of the next. However, do stick around. So you have your deck, you sit down, you randomly decide who's going first, and you win the randomly decide. Should you go first or should you go second? In universes, going first is very powerful. It allows you to set up an early build. It allows you to get the early aggro in on your second turn and allows you to apply pressure and control the direction of the game. There are some characters that can benefit from going second, but ideally everyone wants to go first. The advantages of going second are that you get to draw an extra card and you get your review step, as well as you get a different kind of mulligan, but we'll get to that in a second. Going second has disadvantages, but they're more what we'll talk about when we talk about mulligans. But should you go first or should you go second? To keep it simple, if you do end up being the person that decides, until you're more confident in the game, until you develop your game sense as to whether or not you're more confident going second, always go first. You get your build, you get to control the flow of the game early, which is good for setting the pace. And if you're brand new, chances are it means that your opponent can help you out a little bit going over the builds. My recommendation if you're brand new, always go first. Should I mulligan? This depends on if you're going first or if you're going second. A mulligan is a special aspect of most card games where you draw your opening hand and then you may change the cards of that opening hand. It only happens once at the beginning of the game. And if you're going first, you'll take, say you're playing a six-hander, you'll take your 6 cards, you look at your hand, and then if you don't want to keep that hand, you'll then put it down, draw 6 more, put the 6 on the bottom of your deck, and shuffle. Going second, however, you get a partial mulligan. This means you get to select cards from your hand, put those down, draw the same number, and then shuffle those cards back into your deck. And that's your mulligan. It's a very powerful mulligan because it means that you aren't as subject to randomization and get to hold on to more foundations. Looking at your opening hand and thinking, should I mulligan? The biggest question you should ask yourself at that point is, how much can I build? How many foundations can I put down before I'm likely to fail one? So to work this out, you take the lowest check that's in your deck. So whether that be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and then you assess that against the cards in your hand with progressive difficulty. That's where it gets a bit more complicated. If I have in my hand a 3 cost foundation, a 2 cost foundation, a 1 cost foundation, a 0 cost foundation, and then 2 more 1 cost foundations, and the lowest check value in my deck is a 3, I know I can reliably play 4 foundation. I can play my 3 cost foundation, and it'll pass. I can play my 2 cost foundation with 1 progressive, so it'll always pass on a 3. then my 1 diff foundation with 2 progressive, my 0 diff with 3 progressive, and then I can try to figure out if I can pass the other 2. Usually you're running a 1/3 to 2/3 foundation to attack ratio. Going first, you don't need to keep those cards in your hand, so it's always cool to risk it. So you can throw it in there on the 4. If it passes, great. Then you got your last one, which is on a 5. If you pass it, you don't. Building 6 is always fun. A walk away of building 3 or 4 is always acceptable. The big thing is to check what's in your hand. If you open your hand of 2 cost foundations, the chances are you're only building 3 foundations. If you fail to check in your first turn on a foundation, your turn ends and it goes to the discard. It's a shame, but it happens. It's weighing up the point of diminishing return. If you have a handful of foundations, you could mulligan it away and draw a handful of attacks. You could draw more foundations. It's about using your own sense to see whether or not you're happy to play the foundations in your hand or willing to risk it to pick up more. That is the risk of going first. Going second, you have a lot more to assess. Your mental load is a bit higher than in your first turn. At the start of your turn, you have access to the review step. So you can discard a card from your hand to draw another one. This is very powerful for characters such as the Lurkers or for Krista because it allows you to play into your own abilities and you get to draw an additional card, increasing your hand size for that one turn. On top of how many foundations can I build versus my lowest check, like going first, you need to assess your defensive capabilities as well. If you're a 7-hander, this is especially important for you because 7-handers taking out turn 2, it is a very volatile game. So just because you can build 5 foundations and have 2 cards in hand doesn't always mean you should. One of the first things I would recommend to do going second is to look at my opponent's board. If my opponent's stage has only got 3 foundations, chances are they're not going to go that deep on attacks next turn, so I can risk a more greedy build. However, if my opponent has built 6 foundations and their character is rather aggressive, I may need to hold back a little bit and not build things I could have built to preserve my health total. Going into the third line of play, risk taking a little bit of damage to go from a stronger build so that if my opponent does overextend on their attack turn, I can push back and deal some damage in their turn. One of the biggest things that new players seem to forget and have a more fear around is their health total. Your health total is a resource and you should use it. There is nothing wrong with taking attack. There is no shame in taking damage. You do not need to achieve a perfect after every round. This is a fighting game. Of course you're going to take damage. Do not be afraid of damage. There are many players that will sit there and just say, if it doesn't kill me, I don't need to block it. It all comes down to how aggressive or controlling you want to be. There are also some players who do not want to take damage because they're looking to play the long game. So your mental load is a lot more taxed going second, which is also why I recommend going first if you're a new player, because it allows you to develop more game sense. Ideally, building as much as you can does aid in your defense. And again, looking at your hand, looking at what you can build and what you should be building with progressive difficulty is huge. One of the other big advantages of going second is your character is ready. It's not always the best idea to commit your character to pass a check. If you're playing Elder Toguro or Reina, I would never recommend that because that damage reduction, that speed manipulation is what keeps you alive. But sometimes committing your character to get a valuable foundation down is worth the risk. Managing your first attack turn. So early turns are important for controlling the flow of the game, taking control of how the game's flow goes. Aggro decks are looking to get your health below the red line. This is what I call the kill line. Aggro decks have a number. They know that once your health falls below that number, they can kill you. Control players are more looking to pace out the game, put you into a position where they can kill you or put you in a position where they have complete control of the flow of the game and make you more reactionary than proactionary. What I mean by that is you are more focused on what they're doing and interacting with their cards than optimizing your cards. Combo players are more looking on their first attack turns to set up their combos, to sculpt, to poke. A poke is just basically like a little attack they try to get some damage in so they can pop off other effects to draw more cards to further their combo goal. All kinds of players, aggro, control, or combo, will have poke turns. You do not need to go all in every single turn. There's nothing wrong with taking your first attack turn to build and put yourself in a stronger position. If you draw a hand that is all foundations, that's a build turn. If you draw a hand that's all attacks, then you need to push. You need to play at least one card out, and pushing through one attack can allow you to change your hand a bit using your enhances, using cards you have in play to try and find more foundations for the build, because ideally you want to be doing a couple of attacks, getting a little bit of momentum, getting some more cards, and building out. A trap that a lot of new players fall into is resource management. Do not overextend. Do not commit more foundations than you need to for a turn that does not kill. If you cannot guarantee your opponent is going to die this turn, then do not overextend. So many players die on what is called the crackback because they overextended. They had no foundations. They had no means of stopping their opponent from killing them, which is an absolute shame. If you are looking to go in on your kill turn, then you need to basically look at your hand, look at your opponent's situation and go, how many of my lowest check can I check and still kill? If you can only check 1-3 and get the kill, chances are you're going to push, but the moment you see that first 3, you might start backing down. If your opponent has a fully ready stage, full health total, 4 cards in hand, chances are you're not killing, and they've got the defenses. One of the biggest things is just going, if I can't kill, I need to keep myself alive. So many players have died just running attacks for the sake of running attacks. Do not feel bad for losing to RNG. Do not feel bad that the check went wrong. It is an aspect of the game. Feel frustrated, feel annoyed as much as you want to get that out of your system, but do not blame yourself. It's part of the game. It happens. Everyone in this game has lost to a free check. Everyone in this game has won by checking a 6 when to get this attack through when their opponent had nothing left. Tempo your plays. If you can build out, if you can push, keep your defense in mind. Keep what your opponent's trying to do in mind, and especially in game 2 and game 3, once you're a bit more acquainted with your opponent's deck, you'll have a bit more of a feel of how to play against it. If your opponent's playing very aggressively, then you know that you need to hold back a few cards to defend, and when you'll be able to assess where your opponent's trying to get your health total to kill you. Being too cautious can be bad, being too reckless can be bad. And sometimes the game will dictate how you have to play by how many foundations, attacks, and actions you draw. All I can really say, as long as you've got a well-balanced deck and you're playing consistently, as long as you're playing the way you want to play and the way that you're having fun, you will grow. You do not need to get better at a game. You do not need to be competitive game. You do not need to be the best. You just need to enjoy it. Play your way. Follow your instincts. If you want to try something cool, try something cool. At the end of the day, losing a game does not matter. If you don't ever get to Worlds, does not matter. As long as you are loving this game and having fun, that is what matters. Play the game your way, but if you want to win, do not overextend. Look at what your opponent's deck is trying to do and how you can counter it. The other thing is to sculpt. Take your time, throw out some pokes, discard cards, draw cards, follow your game plan. When you build your deck should have a purpose of what it's trying to do. Yes, it wants to attack, but it will have sub goals such as destroying foundations for health gain, destroying your opponent's foundations, increasing speed so your attacks are unblockable. Follow that game plan and make it something you will enjoy. As long as you keep playing the game, as long as you keep having fun, you'll come across interactions, you'll come across lines of play. You'll get better just by playing the game. This is the best advice I can give a person coming in from a demo or coming in from another game. This game is unlike any other card game out there, and I wish I'd found it sooner. Managing your turns is so much more complicated than in other games that I've played. knowing how to anticipate your opponents is a lot harder, and knowing what's the best line of play is very, very difficult. There is no universal key on what you should be doing on your second turn. Take a look at your hand. Try to use what I've said about resource management and poke turns and sculpting to further your deck's objective, but do it your way. Do not listen to other people's advice. Look for the lines of play which are optimal, but have fun. If you want to take a crazy risk because you think it's fun, go for it. This is your game. This is your deck. You play it your way. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. I don't know if this is helpful. I kind of went on a bit of a tangent there at the end. If you did find this helpful, if you have any other questions about managing your turns, or if you have any other questions as a new player or a player coming in for a different game, do let me know. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good time. Bye.
If you don't like and subscribe, this creeper will explode. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You did it. Good.